everyone, welcome back. Today I'll be doing my March wrap-up. I got through quite a few books and even one audiobook, and these are going to be in no particular order, so I'm just going to jump right in. One of the books I read, is Unfurled by Cidney Swanson. This is the third book in the Ripple Trilogy, which I read as an ebook, about a young girl by the name of Sam who can become invisible. Through the course of the story, you learn a lot of other things that are involved with this invisibility, about an evil man by the name of Hellman who's trying to control people with disability and is trying to hunt down Sam. We also meet a young man named Will and his sister Mickey, who become their close friends and help Sam through all these nightmare that she kind of becomes involved in. The difference in this particular third book of the trilogy is where the first two books were told from strictly Sam's point of view, the third book is now told from both alternating points of view of Sam and Will. And this was necessary because the course of the story takes us, Sam returns to the U.S. and Will and his sister remain in France with a man we meet through the course of the story by the name of Sir Walter. So events are taking place on both continents, and we need a perspective to know what's happening over there. So this was kind of interesting change in the course of the series, which I really liked, though. I like getting Will's perspective and thoughts, and maybe like the character a little bit more. The danger ramps up a lot more in this final conclusion to the series, as you would kind of expect. And not only is the danger to Sam and Will and Mickey and Sir Walter, but it also kind of starts to extend to Sam's family and friends. So it gets really, really interesting, really wonderful conclusion, and I was very glad I read it. I highly recommend that. I gave that book 5 out of 5 stars. The next one I encountered this month, I'll say this is an audiobook. This is a middle grade audio entitled Dreadful Acts. This is book 2 in the Eddie Dickens trilogy, and it's by Philip Ardagh. The first book was called A House Called Awful End. And that's the name of the house where Eddie Dickens, our main character, goes to live when his parents come down with this kind of strange disease that they don't want Eddie to catch. And Awful End is the name of the house that his mad Uncle Jack and even madder Aunt Maud live in. And he's already worried just the fact that they're referred to as being mad, and they call their house Awful End. It was a really crazy first book, really enjoyable, not unlike Series of Unfortunate Events, so people who like that series I think would enjoy this. This is just a trilogy. In this particular one, once again, Eddie finds himself in hot water with the police, narrowly avoiding getting arrested, when he kind of becomes involved in the activities of the great Tsugumi, who happens to be an escape biologist, and his escape kind of goes horribly wrong when his hot air balloon kind of crash lands near Eddie. And now Eddie's tied up in events that take place around the great Tsugumi. There's also a gang of dangerous convicts on the moor that want him to help them out with something. And there's even a fire at Awful End. So lots of craziness happens. I really enjoy the audios of these. I don't think the books will be quite as entertaining, but the audios, the guy who's doing the narration is just fantastic. And I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next one I read was the Physick book of Deliverance Dane. This is by Katherine Howe. This is her debut novel, and it tells the story of a Harvard graduate by the name of Connie Goodwin. She's supposed to be working on her doctoral dissertation and kind of becomes sidetracked when her mother asks her to go to Salem to help handle the sale of her grandmother's abandoned home. And it's almost impossible to find at first because the grounds are so overgrown around it, and finally they discover the house. Her and her friend go there for a bit, and then it's just kind of Connie spending time there. And as she's going through her grandmother's possessions, she comes across this 17th century Bible, and out from it falls this ancient key. And when she takes a close look at the key, she finds a piece of paper rolled up and slid inside the shaft of the key, and on it is written the name of Deliverance Dane. And this kind of takes her on this amazing journey to uncover this woman. It takes her back to the 1690s during the Salem witch trials. And the author really nicely kind of alternates the storyline between Connie's present time and the Salem witch trials. And you really get a really interesting insight of what life was like during that time, the hysteria that kind of just takes place, and how people can get so wrapped up and believe anything they hear, and how accusatory they could be. And it was just really, really well written. I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 5 stars. The next one I read, and like I said, not necessarily in order, but one of the other ones I read was another book by Cidney Swanson, and this is Saving Mars. This is the first in a trilogy, YA sci-fi, slight dystopian. I really enjoyed this book. I'm currently reading the second book. I'm nearing the end of it. It's just very amazing. It's about a young girl by the name of Jessamine Jarda. She goes by the name of Jess. And she's a very talented pilot. And she's living on a human colony on Mars. And Mars and Earth do not have really good relations. And an accident happens on the planet that kind of decimates their food storage. So they have to return to Earth on a kind of raiding mission. They have been doing this over the course of like the past 2 generations, where they would trade on the black market, but now they've had to kind of move up their need to do another trade. So Jess ends up being one of the pilots chosen for this mission, and she is rather young, and you would think that wouldn't there be someone more qualified, but the reason she's also chosen is because her brother Ethan has been chosen to go on the mission for like a secret mission as well. So he suffers from extreme claustrophobia, and she's like one of the few people that can kind of calm him down and kind of help him avoid like almost going into this catatonic state. So really, really well written, lots of action. I love the main character. I loved all the characters. There's even this sort of evil woman that kind of governs a section of Earth, and it made me think of the Queen from the Lunar Chronicles. She's just evil. And the Earth Society has this really interesting dystopian twist. And I'm not going to say anything more than there's just this weird twist. And you have to read the book to find out what that's about. Really enjoyed this one. Gave this one 5 stars. The next book I picked up, let's see, that was Forgotten by Kat Patrick. Now, this is about a girl, she's 16-year-old by the name of London Lane. And something happened to her, messes up her memories, but she basically doesn't have any short-term memories. Every time she goes to sleep at night and she wakes up in the morning, she doesn't remember the events that took place during the day. Things that took place, like her family members and stuff like that have been in her life longer, probably prior to the events of whatever accident happened. She remembers all that stuff, but literally day to day, she has to take copious notes to remember people she's met, things that she's done, so that she reads those notes the next morning and kind of can continue with her life, basically. This one was just like an okay book for me. There were some strange things with the memory. In addition to the fact that she can't remember short-term memory, she has like future, or they call them flash forwards. She actually experiences these flash forwards where she sees what's going to happen in the future. So although she doesn't remember the past, she sees, what's to come, basically, events that involving her or her friends. And so yeah, kind of a tough life to lead. But there's times when it seemed like her memory was selective. Like all of a sudden she seemed to be able to remember certain things, and I thought, well, how could she remember that? Or how could she, even just your general schoolwork, she's still a student in school, how could she remember all the things she learned in school? If you think you'd forget that every day today, how could you read all that in notes and still remember it? You'd have to read all your notes every day, all the way back. Things like that kind of made the story a little less even though it's fiction, to make it even seem plausible that she could continue in a life like that. But there was a lot of weird things in it. It was just, like I said, an okay read for me. I gave it about 3 stars. And another one I read was, and I've been waiting to read this for a while, is Matched by Ali Condie. And this is another dystopian about a girl named Kasha. And in this particular society, it's a dystopian society, you're matched with somebody. It's chosen for you. So you go to a ceremony, and a big screen shows up, and they'll flash a picture, and that's the person you're matched with. And generally, they're broken up into different, like, I don't know if it was districts is the right term, but generally you're chosen to be matched with someone from a different district. But for some reason, she's chosen to be matched with someone in her own district, one of her best friends by the name of Xander. And she's given this, everyone is given a little, like, computer type chip that or they call it a wafer, I think, that you put in a computer, and you can find out the facts about this person you're now matched with. Well, she doesn't really need it because she's been best friends with Xander all her life. But on a whim, she decides to put it in to see what information's on there. And not only Xander's face pops up, but another boy, whose name I have now just forgotten. Oh, Kai. The boy by the name of Kai. And she's seen him. He's also from her district, which is, again, very unusual. One of the members of the governing people, they come to talk to her and saying that was just a mistake. You are matched correctly with Xander. Forget this. But she now can't forget Kai. And throughout the course of the story, of course, they keep encountering each other. There's lots of weird things very disturbing things about this society. Everybody walks around with these like 3 pills. There's a red, a blue, and a green pill, and you find out what each of those pills, what the significance of each of those is. It's just a really kind of twisted society, but I did enjoy the read. It's slower paced. There's a developing romance. It is a bit of a, 3-way kind of thing going here where she's drawn to 2 people. Yeah, I did enjoy it. I'm currently listening to the second book on audio, which I rented from the library. So I want to see where the rest of the storyline goes, but I gave this one 4 stars. The next books are 2 from the same series, and this is the Enola Homes Mystery Series by Nancy Springer. These are middle grades. The first one is The Case of the Missing Marquis, and the second book was The Case of the Left-Handed Lady. And this series follows Enola Holmes, which is the very younger sister of Sherlock Holmes, the great detective, and his older brother Mycroft. And it was interesting seeing how she's been raised to be sort of almost like a free-thinking, independent young woman. She's only 14. Her mother has been raising her alone because her father died some time ago, and they've been living together in Ferndale Hall, which the eldest brother, Mycroft, is the kind of the owner of the estate and everything because he's the oldest son during this particular time. The estate falls to the oldest son. And we find out during the course of the first book that the mother's been lying to the oldest son and getting money supposedly to run the estate for governess and everything for the young girl. But that hasn't been the case. She's been squirreling away the money. And then on the girl's actual 14th birthday, she vanishes and does leave some clues for the girl, which she, through the course of the series, is able to kind of communicate with her mother. She doesn't quite know where she is. But there's other mysteries that she ends up solving, and it's just really interesting. I like the interaction when Sherlock appears in the stories. A very, very brilliant young woman and very ingenious, the way she manages to elude her brothers who are trying to find her, because she has also disappeared. She does not want to go to a boarding school like her older brother Mycroft thinks is proper for her, so she can learn to become a proper young woman in the society. And wear corsets and etc. and proper posture and all the things she didn't learn because she didn't have this governess. So she sets off on her own to kind of uncover her mother and to kind of set up her own life. And really ingenious series. I think there's like 6 books in the total series, and I gave each of these 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed them. And if you're looking for just a nice, light, quick, middle grade series, definitely recommend picking them up. And then the last 2 books are also from the same series. They're a manga, and it is Death Note. This is the bind-up, the Black Edition, Volume 2, and Volume 3. And inside they have the individuals number 3 and 4, and Volumes 5 and 6. So they're sold separately. So technically there's only 4 books, but we'll count them here today as 2. And I'm really enjoying this manga series about a young guy named Light Yagami, and he finds this notebook just dropped by a Shinigami, kind of a Japanese death god. He was bored and decided to drop it in the human world to see what would happen. And when you write a name in this particular notebook, the person will die within, I think it's like 30 minutes or something, of a heart attack. There's so many rules throughout the course of the books, and they show up on these, so I can find them. They show up on the black pages within the book of the different rules that the boy uncovers as he goes along. Like here's a series of the different rules of how to kind of manipulate the notebook for his own gain. He decides, you think this Light Yagami, he's a pretty good boy, he's very smart, but when he comes across this notebook and thinks it's a joke at first, writes his first name in it, kind of a criminal, and the person dies, and he's thinking he can use this for good, kind of to wipe the world of criminals. And it starts to get really dark and kind of twisted. And like I said, all these rules that kind of pop up and other things. Lots of surprising twists throughout the story. Book 2 I gave 5 stars. Book 3 I gave 4 stars. It slowed down a bit. There's this, I don't know if I remember the name of it, but there's this business group, and there's lots of meetings. They have a couple meetings throughout the book where they're discussing things, and I don't want to go too much information as to who this group is, but some of that part of the story seemed to like drag the pacing down a little bit for me. But still really interesting. And like I said, overall, still was worth 4 stars out of that one. And I'm continuing. I'm going to read the entire series. I believe there are 6 total black editions, which would be 12 total individual books. And then there's a couple spin-off like novels to the series that aren't in the manga format, not in the the graphic novel-y type thing. But I'm really enjoying that. It's definitely worth picking up if you're looking for something a little different. So overall, those are all the books I read this past March. Currently, I am reading Fear by Michael Grant, and this is the second to the last book. I've been sitting on this for some time, so I'm finally jumping into this month. One of the other books I'd like to read this month, I don't know if it'll work out or not, but it's The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. This is a book I won on a Goodreads giveaway, so I kind of like to push this one up on my TBR list so I can write a review and send that back through Goodreads. Again, another beast of a book along the lines of Fear, so I don't know how many books I'll get through this month. We'll see. And another one I really, really want to read because I've now kind of caught back up with the series, having re-listened to the first 6 books. And that's I think it's the 7th book now, is The Woman Who Died a Lot by Jasper Fforde, and that's in the Thursday Next series. So I've had this one for a bit now, and now that I'm kind of refreshed my memory on what happened in the earlier part of the series, I want to kind of continue. And again, this is still fairly big. So that might be my entire April reading. We'll see how it goes. But that's all I have for you today. Hope you guys had a good month of reading, and hope you have a good April reading. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.